Sir, stop right there. I'm gonna need you to step away from the property.
Step away from what? This is my house.
We received a call. A resident reported an unknown individual attempting to access the property.
I am the resident.
You live here.
I designed it, I built it, I own it.
Sir, I'm gonna need you to put that down and place your hands where I can see them. This isn't your property.
My name's on that deed.
Turn around, hands.
The morning of October 3rd, 2023, started like every other Tuesday on Birchwood Estates. Sprinklers running, leaves starting to turn, the kind of quiet that expensive neighborhoods buy on purpose. And then a patrol car pulled up. Officer Brett Calloway stepped out, hand already resting on his belt. Eyes already locked on the man standing in the driveway of 22 Birchwood Lane. The man was not running, not shouting, not doing anything except standing in front of his own front door, holding a manila folder, watching the officer approach with the calm of someone who had been waiting for exactly this moment. His name was Darius Cole, and according to his neighbor Patricia Owens, who was standing on the sidewalk behind Officer Calloway, arms folded, phone still warm from the 911 call she had just made, Darius Cole did not belong there. And Calloway stopped 4 feet from Darius and said the words that would eventually cost the city, the HOA, and Patricia Owens personally a combined $275,000. "Sir, step away from the property. You are trespassing." Darius looked at him, then at Patricia, then back at the officer. He did not raise his voice. He did not step back. He simply said, "I'm not trespassing. I own this house." Calloway didn't check the folder, didn't call it in, didn't ask for ID. He reached for his handcuffs. And before we go any further, what city or country are you watching this from? Drop it in the comments right now. We read every single one, and where you're watching from matters to this story more than you might think. And if you believe that a black man should be able to stand in his own driveway without being handcuffed for it, subscribe right now. This channel exists because these stories deserve to be told completely, not buried. Now, to understand exactly how Darius Cole ended up in handcuffs on a Tuesday morning in front of a home he had owned for over a year, we need to go back 6 weeks. Because this did not start with a 911 call, it started with a woman who had been watching him since the day he moved in. And what Patricia Owens did in those 6 weeks, the calls she made, the complaints she filed, the assumptions she was absolutely certain about, created a paper trail that her own attorney would later describe in a private deposition as the most self-destructive documentation I have ever seen a client produce. But Patricia didn't know that yet. On October 3rd, standing on that sidewalk, in watching Officer Calloway reach for those handcuffs, Patricia Owens had never felt more certain that she was right. She was about to find out exactly how wrong she was. Patricia Owens had lived at 20 Birchwood Lane for 9 years. In that time, she had served as neighborhood watch chair for the Birchwood Estates HOA, filed 23 formal complaints against various residents, and won every single one of them. She was, by her own description, someone who paid attention. And from the moment the moving truck pulled up next door on August 19, 2023, she was paying very close attention to Darius Cole. The first complaint came 4 days after he moved in. Patricia filed it on August 23rd, citing repeated loud disturbances after 9 p.m. The HOA board, chaired by Gerald Fitch, I logged it without investigation and sent Darius a formal written warning. Darius had been in his home before 8 p.m. every single night that week. He was alone. He had not had a single visitor. He received the warning, scanned it, and forwarded it to his attorney the same afternoon. The second complaint came 9 days later. Patricia reported an unidentified vehicle parked suspiciously in the driveway on September 1st. The vehicle belonged to Darius's contractor, who had been hired to install custom shelving in the home office. The contractor's van had his company name printed on both sides in 6-inch letters. Gerald Fitch logged the complaint. Another warning was issued. Darius scanned it, forwarded it, said nothing. The third complaint arrived on September 18th. This time Patricia described a male individual conducting suspicious activity near the mailboxes. The male individual was Darius Cole, collecting his own mail at 2:30 in the afternoon. 3 complaints, 6 weeks, 0 investigations. And Patricia Owens had already decided what her 4th move would be. She just hadn't decided when. On the morning of October 3rd, she decided. Patricia Owens made the call at 9:14 a.m. She did not identify herself as a neighbor. She did not mention the 3 prior complaints she had filed. She simply told the dispatcher that there was an unknown black male attempting to force entry into a property on Birchwood Lane, and that she was genuinely frightened for the safety of the neighborhood. Every word of it was recorded. Officer Brett Calloway arrived at 9:21 a.m., 7 minutes after the call. Or he did not go to Darius first. He walked directly to Patricia, who was waiting on the sidewalk, and spent the next 4 minutes listening to her account before he ever looked in Darius's direction. 4 minutes. That sequence, who the officer approached first, and for how long, would later become one of the central arguments in attorney Simone Prescott's filing. When Calloway finally approached Darius, he didn't ask for identification, didn't ask what he was doing, didn't ask anything. He issued an instruction. "Sir, step away from the property." Darius opened the manila folder he had been holding and extended the property deed toward Calloway with one hand. Calloway looked at it, then physically pushed it aside. "I'm not going to ask you again." Across the street, Darius's neighbor Raymond Tate had walked out to retrieve his recycling bin when the patrol car arrived. He stopped, watched, and quietly pulled out his phone. He didn't say a word. He just pressed record. Darius was handcuffed at 9:26 a.m., 12 minutes after Patricia's call, and approximately 40 seconds after he had extended a legal property deed to a uniformed officer who refused to read it. As Calloway walked Darius toward the patrol car, Patricia Owens watched from the sidewalk. And she smiled. That smile was also on Raymond Tate's footage. While Darius Cole sat in the back of Brett Calloway's patrol car, staring through the window at the house he had designed, purchased, and owned outright. His phone buzzed once in his pocket. He couldn't answer it. His hands were behind his back. The missed call was from attorney Simone Prescott. She had been notified of the arrest through an automated alert system Darius had set up 3 weeks earlier. The same week he received Patricia Owens's second complaint. Because Darius Cole did not react to threats, he prepared for them. It was, in every sense, how he was trained. Darius Cole was 38 years old, principal architect and founder of Cole & Associates, a licensed firm with 11 years of active practice across 3 counties. His work had been featured in 2 regional architecture publications. He held contracts with the city's infrastructure planning division. He had been nominated for the state's Built Environment Excellence Award in 2021. He had also, 14 months before Patricia Owens filed her first complaint, been the lead architect on the Birchwood Estates residential development project. Let that settle for a moment. The community Patricia Owens had appointed herself guardian of. The streets, the setbacks, the drainage infrastructure, the landscaping blueprint that made Birchwood Estates the kind of neighborhood people paid a premium to live in, had been designed, planned, and approved under Darius Cole's professional signature. His name was not just on his property deed. It was on the original development permit for the entire street. But Patricia didn't know that. Officer Calloway didn't know that. Gerald Fitch, who had signed off on 3 complaints against Darius without a single investigation, did not know that. They were all about to find out. At 10:02 a.m., Simone Prescott tried calling again. This time she didn't wait for an answer. She went straight to work. Simone Prescott made 3 calls before 10:30 a.m. Not to the precinct, not to Officer Calloway, not to the HOA. Her first call was to the city planning office. This was not an accident. Simone Prescott had been Darius Cole's attorney for 6 years. She knew exactly what he did for a living. She knew exactly what his firm had built. And when she pulled up the arrest notification and saw the address, 22 Birchwood Lane, she recognized it immediately from Cole & Associates' project portfolio. She asked the planning office for 3 documents. The first was the Birchwood Estates residential development permit, issued August 2019. Lead architect listed on line 4, Darius A. Cole, firm Cole & Associates. The second was the infrastructure approval filing for Birchwood Lane's drainage and utility systems, signed and stamped by the same firm, same architect. The third was the original landscape master plan for the entire Birchwood Estates community, the document that specified every setback, every tree placement, every shared green space that Patricia Owens had enjoyed for 9 years. Signatory on the approval line, Darius A. Cole. Simone had all 3 documents by 11:15 a.m. She cross-referenced them against Darius's property deed. His name on line 7, purchase recorded 14 months prior, 0 liens, 0 disputes, and assembled everything into a single digital package. At 11:30 a.m., she sent it to Gerald Fitch's HOA board email with a cover note that contained exactly 1 sentence. Please review the attached before your next communication with law enforcement. Gerald Fitch opened the email at 12:09 p.m. and he forwarded it to Patricia Owens at 12:14 p.m. without a single word of explanation. Patricia opened it at 12:31 p.m. She stared at Darius Cole's name on the Birchwood Estates development permit for 4 full minutes before she made her next move. That move was the worst decision she had made yet. Patricia Owens's worst decision was to fight back. At 12:47 p.m., 16 minutes after opening Gerald Fitch's email, she contacted a private attorney named Douglas Rimmer and instructed him to file a counter-complaint against Darius Cole, alleging that Darius had intimidated and harassed her by deliberately purchasing property adjacent to her residence to monitor her movements. Douglas Rimmer asked her to send him the document package Gerald had forwarded. She did. He called her back at 1:34 p.m. The call lasted 6 minutes. He declined the case. He would later tell a colleague that taking Patricia Owens's counter-complaint would have been, in his exact words, professional suicide. While Patricia was on that call, Simone Prescott was walking into the Birchwood precinct. Not to see Officer Calloway, to see his commander. Captain Elaine Moorfield received Simone's document package at 1:41 p.m. and reviewed it in 11 minutes. She then pulled Brett Calloway's body cam footage from that morning and watched the sequence where Darius extended the property deed and Calloway physically pushed it aside without reading it. She picked up her phone and called the Internal Affairs Division. That call was logged at 1:58 p.m. At 2:30 p.m., the HOA board convened an emergency session chaired by Gerald Fitch. The vote to formally rescind all 3 complaints filed against Darius Cole took 4 minutes. The result was 5-0. The minutes were entered into the official HOA record immediately. Darius Cole was released from custody at 2:47 p.m. He had been held for 5 hours and 21 minutes. When he walked out of the precinct, Simone Prescott was waiting on the steps with a coffee and a single sheet of paper. The paper was a lawsuit filing. The number at the top was not $275,000. It was $340,000. And that is the moment this story changes permanently. Patricia Owens had called 911 on a man who designed the street she lived on. She had filed 3 complaints against a man whose professional signature was on her neighborhood's original development permit. And she had smiled on camera while a decorated architect was handcuffed in front of his own home. And now every single piece of that was documented, time-stamped, and attached to a federal civil rights filing. If you have ever watched someone's certainty collapse in real time, drop it in the comments right now. Tell me, at what exact moment did you know Patricia Owens had already lost? And if this is the kind of story this channel was built to tell, stories where the truth has receipts and the arrogant pay for every single assumption they made, subscribe right now. Because the next case we're covering makes this one look like a warning. The filing had been submitted, the evidence was airtight. Now came the part where Patricia Owens, Officer Brett Calloway, and the Birchwood Estates HOA found out exactly what $340,000 becomes when 3 parties spend 60 days trying to make it go away. The negotiation lasted 63 days. Patricia Owens's insurance provider assigned her a defense attorney on day 2. The Birchwood Estates HOA retained separate counsel on day 4. Officer Brett Calloway's union representative filed a formal response on day 6. 3 separate legal teams, 1 airtight evidence package. Simone Prescott did not negotiate on the core liability question. All 3 parties were advised early that contesting it was not a viable path. Raymond Tate's phone footage had captured Patricia's smile. Calloway's body cam had captured the deed dismissal. The city planning records had confirmed Darius's development credits on the street itself. Douglas Rimmer, The attorney who declined Patricia's counter-complaint had submitted a voluntary statement confirming he found her position legally indefensible. There was nothing to contest. There was only an amount to agree on. On December 5, 2023, 63 days after Darius Cole was handcuffed in his own driveway, the settlement was finalized. Patricia Owens, personally liable for $118,000. Her homeowner's insurance covered $94,000 of it. The remaining $24,000 came directly out of her personal savings. The Birchwood Estates HOA, liable for $112,000, paid through their institutional reserve fund. Gerald Fitch submitted his resignation as board chair 4 days before the settlement was signed. The city, on behalf of Officer Brett Calloway's conduct, liable for $45,000. Calloway received a 45-day suspension without pay, a mandatory bias intervention training, and a permanent notation in his personnel file. His promotion eligibility was suspended for 2 years. Total settlement, $275,000. Every penny documented, every party named. 3 weeks after the settlement closed, Raymond Tate watched from his driveway as Darius Cole pulled up to 22 Birchwood Lane, stepped out of his car, and stood in the same spot where the handcuffs had gone on. He stood there for a long moment. Then he went inside his house. His house. Darius Cole issued one public statement through Simone Prescott's office on December 12, 2023. It read in its entirety, "I designed this street. I own this home. I documented everything from the first letter. That is not defiance. That is architecture." As for Patricia Owens, she no longer serves on the Birchwood Estates Neighborhood Watch. The HOA board voted unanimously to bar her from filing any formal complaints for 36 months as a condition of the settlement agreement. She still lives at 20 Birchwood Lane, next door to the man she tried to have removed. This story did not go viral because it was unusual. It went viral because it wasn't. Every week, somewhere in this country, a person is stopped, questioned, handcuffed, or reported for existing in a space that someone decided they didn't belong in. Most of those stories don't end with a settlement. Most of them don't end with an internal affairs investigation. Most of them don't end with a resigned HOA chair and a declined countercomplaint. Most of them just end. Darius Cole's story ended differently because he did one thing from the very first warning letter Patricia Owens filed against him, and he kept every single piece of paper. So here is the question we want you to answer in the comments today. And think carefully before you type, if Darius Cole had thrown away even one of those letters, if he had never set up that automated attorney alert, never scanned and forwarded every complaint the same day it arrived, would any of this have been provable? Would Patricia Owens have paid a single dollar? Tell us below. This comment section is where this community thinks out loud, and we read every response. If this story stayed with you, share it right now. Send it to someone who needs to understand that documentation is not paranoia. For a black homeowner in America, documentation is armor. And if this channel is where you come to watch the truth win, subscribe and hit the bell. Or because the next story we're bringing you involves a case that started exactly like this one. Same neighborhood type, same pattern of complaints, same assumption about who belongs where, very different profession, even higher stakes. We'll see you there.